In this video, I'm talking about the two main styles of hearing aids and the pros and cons of each type, coming up. Hi guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions. And on this channel, I cover a bunch of hearing related information to help make you a better informed consumer. So if you're into that, consider hitting the subscribe button. There are two general types of hearing aids, behind the ear and in the ear. Now within these two general types, there are several different styles. In this video, I won't be covering those specific styles in detail, it will be more of a general overview. You'll be able to see other videos that I've made on those specific styles if you want. Let's talk about behind the ear styles first. For behind the ear styles, otherwise known as BTE devices, you have a standard BTE, you have a slim tube BTE, and then you have a receiver in the canal or RIC. Slim tube and receiver in the canal style hearing aids have been very popular over the recent years, and that's because you can fit a wide range of hearing losses with them, and they don't require quite as much physical customization as you would with a device that requires an ear mold impression. For in the canal styles, otherwise known as ITE, you have a full shell, a half shell, an in the canal, an invisible in the canal daily wear, and an invisible in the canal extended wear. In-the-ear custom devices used to be more popular until these non-custom required behind-the-ear devices started hitting the scene. That being said, in the recent few years, we've seen more of a resurgence of these custom molded devices because they're actually now able to make them much smaller and fit them further inside of your ear, making them less visible. Before I start getting into the pros and cons of the different styles of hearing aids, it's important to understand that style has no influence on the level of technology inside of a device. So you can have two devices that look completely identical, but one of them is a premium level device and the other one is a basic level device. But you wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at the style. On the other hand, you could have two completely different style devices, but have the exact same level of technology in both of them. From a price standpoint, you may spend a little bit more on a customized device because it requires an ear mold impression, but that isn't always the case. If you want to know more about the different technology levels, I have another video that I'll link in the description below. Okay, so let's look at the pros and cons of a behind-the-ear device, or BTE. Pro number one is that behind-the-ear devices are quick to treat. And what I mean by that is that the slim tube style and the receiver in the canal style, you generally can fit someone with those within a few days. Because you don't really require having a custom tip on the end of that type of a hearing aid, you can fit someone very quickly. There's no need to wait for an ear mold to come back from the lab. And you can fit someone, it's just a super quick deal. Sometimes you can even get fit the same day. The one style of behind-the-ear hearing aid that doesn't work for is the standard BTE that still requires a custom mold on the end of it, and that is for severe to profound types of hearing loss. Pro number two is that behind-the-ear devices generally have easily replaceable components. What I mean by that is that for a RIC style hearing aid, you have a wire that goes down to the receiver. You can just swap that out if that wire goes bad. A slim tube, if you have a plug up in the slim tube, you can just replace that tube really quickly. If you have a standard size 13 tube coming out from a larger behind the ear device, you can just swap that tube out, no problem. And generally those fix a lot of the maintenance issues that you would have on those types of devices. Pro number three is that they're actually really comfortable. The behind-the-ear styles, people think that they would interfere with their glasses or that they would feel them behind their ears, but generally you don't feel them at all. They're so lightweight and so small and so perfectly contoured to your ear that you generally have no sensation of them whatsoever. Now you might feel the standard type BTE because it's a little bit bigger, you might feel that a little bit more, but generally speaking, behind-the-ear devices, super comfortable. Pro number four is connectivity. Behind-the-ear devices, because they're able to pull a lot of the components out of in your ear and put them behind your ear, it allows them more space, or it allows the manufacturers more space to allow them to have antennas for connectivity that you would have with your phone, with your TV, with a variety of other Bluetooth devices, and it allows you to integrate your hearing treatment with other standard stuff that you use around the house. So connectivity is an extremely big pro for a behind-the-ear style device. Pro number 5 is that they're actually really discreet. When you get down to one of the smaller receiver in the canal style hearing aids, and keep in mind, you can fit up to a really severe hearing loss with the receiver in the canal style hearing device, as long as you don't have problems with your ears draining. And when you really blend that color in with your hair, it's almost impossible to see from that standpoint. A lot of females who tend to wear their hair longer, you can't even tell that they're even wearing a hearing aid, and it just is a really nice discreet option if, aesthetic is something that is really important to you. Pro number 6 is that they're really good for severe to profound hearing losses. And this is for more of the standard behind the ear and the receiver in the canal, as long as you have a custom ear mold component to them. Now, the reason that they're so good for a severe to profound hearing loss is that when you're pushing that much volume into the ear, you run the risk of having feedback. And that's when the sound that leaks out of the ear recycles back to the microphones and creates that squealing, that annoying squealing sound that you might hear. And if you are able to put the microphones of a hearing aid behind the ear rather than in the ear, that sound has to travel further in order to get it to feed back, which means that you're less likely to experience feedback with a behind the ear device than you are from an in the ear device. And pro number 7 is that they're becoming more rechargeable. The behind the ear devices, a lot of the manufacturers have been making them more rechargeable. Some of them, they have a special battery that you can put in them and put in a charger. Others have a completely encased battery inside of the hearing aid that you would put on the charger. And from the standpoint of if you have dexterity issues with your fingers, or you just don't like the idea of using all of those throwaway batteries, then having a rechargeable option is really nice, and it's something that you just can't get with an in-the-ear option as of yet. Okay, let's go on to the cons of behind the ear devices. So con number 1 is that they are a little bit more detectable from a visual standpoint than an invisible in the canal hearing aid. Now, while it really depends on how much hair that you have on your head and around your ears, a behind the ear device can be completely invisible, but if you have really short hair, people will be able to see the behind the ear devices. Con number 2 is it does have the potential to either irritate the top of your ear or interfere with your glasses. You generally don't see irritation, you generally don't see it bothering with glasses, but every once in a while there's a situation where someone just doesn't have enough space between their skull and their ear, and trying to get a hearing aid and eyeglass arms in the same little space doesn't work. So they won't necessarily work for everybody. It really depends on your individual anatomy. Con number 3 is that the telephone can actually be a little bit more tricky or difficult with a behind the ear device if that device doesn't have direct connectivity with your phone. And the reason is because when you hold the phone up to the center of your ear, that's not where the microphones are. The microphones are actually on top of your ear. So you might feel like you're actually holding the phone in a weird way, and that can be a little off-putting in some scenarios. But when you do hold the phone up a little bit higher, you actually still can hear through a behind the ear device as long as you're comfortable with doing that. Okay, that finishes up the pros and cons for a behind the ear device. Now let's go into the pros of in the ear device. Pro number 1 is ease of insertion. Custom molded devices, particularly the larger custom molded devices, are much easier to get into your ear. They're custom molded, there's only one way that they can go in, and it's almost like when you sink your hand into an old catcher's mitt or baseball glove, it just sinks right into the right spot. And so if you have, issues with your fingers, or you're not able to manipulate a behind the ear device behind your ear and inside of your ear, using a custom all in the ear device can be much easier from that standpoint. Pro number 2 is ease of use. Generally, custom devices, particularly the ones that sit deep inside of your ear canal, don't have a whole lot of settings that you need to worry about, don't have a lot of adjustments that you need to make on them on the fly, and so you just put them in and you kind of let them do their thing. And because you don't have to, worry about where you're holding the phone or anything like that, you generally can function the same way that you normally would, just with having a device nice and deep inside of your ear. It's a really great situation for someone who really doesn't want to fiddle with things, who doesn't want to worry about, glasses going on their head or, other things like that. And it's just really nice sometimes to just put a hearing aid in, let it do its thing, and not have to worry about it. Pro number 3 is that a custom device, your audiologist can really control the sound that's going into your ear. And what I mean by that is that a lot of hearing aids, depending on the type of hearing loss that you have, will have venting. And venting is really important because not only does it allow some sounds in, but it also can prevent sound from escaping your ear. And it all depends on the size of that vent hole. And on more of a generic fit for like a behind the ear device, if you're using a dome, you only have one option. It's either open or it's closed. And when you start dealing with custom devices, you can actually control different vent sizes to accommodate different types of hearing loss. And so if you have an audiologist who is extremely precise with how they want to fit you, they can do it better when they're working with a custom device that has a venting option. Now, pro number 4 is really you can fit almost same kind of hearing losses with an in-the-ear device as you can with a behind-the-ear device. I know that there is some risk of maybe having a little bit more of feedback, but with the technology nowadays, they're coming so super close with the in-the-ear device from the standpoint of being able to fit the same severity of a hearing loss and fitting it as well as a behind-the-ear device. That's it for the pros. Let's start getting into the cons of an in-the-ear style device. Con number 1 is lack of a rechargeable option. While it would be extremely nice to have an in-the-ear device for someone who has finger dexterity issues to not have to worry about batteries, they just aren't there with the technology yet. And while I do think that certain companies will make headway into the rechargeable in-the-ear device options, no one from a legitimate Big 6 manufacturer has figured out a way to make a rechargeable in-the-ear device. I do expect it though to be coming across in the next year or two. Con number 2 is that the larger in-the-ear devices can actually be seen easier than a behind-the-ear device. And so if aesthetic is something that is extremely important to you, or if you have some level of vanity to you and you don't want to have one of these in-ear devices in your ears so a lot of people can see them, then an in-the-ear device might not be the best option for you unless you can get one of the really small in the canal or invisible in the canal devices, and you might be better served with going with something that's more of like a RIC style hearing aid or a slim tube style hearing aid. Con number 3 is that in-the-ear hearing aids generally require a little bit more maintenance than a behind-the-ear style device. The reason is that they live inside of your body all day long. And when they're inside of your body all day long, they're exposed to more moisture, more earwax, more debris, stuff like that. And so maintenance is extremely more important with an in-the-ear device than it is with a behind-the-ear device. So what you need to be doing is going into your hearing care professional and having those devices professionally cleaned. And not only that, you should be doing your at-home maintenance as well. All that being said, if you don't take care of a behind-the-ear device, that device is going to have issues as well. And con number 4 is in-the-ear devices require a custom ear mold impression in order to have a lab manufacture that device specifically for your ear. The place that you go may charge for that, they may not, it depends, but that is a potential con, is that you might be spending a little bit more money for an in-the-ear device versus a behind-the-ear device. Identifying which style is right for you really depends on what your wants and needs are. There is no right or wrong answer to the style of a hearing aid because it doesn't necessarily encompass the level of technology. Level of technology is arguably more important than the style of device, but the style of device needs to have the capability of having the features that you want. For instance, if you want connectivity with your smartphone, you can't go with an invisible in the canal device. It just doesn't have enough room to have the accessibility or the Bluetooth antenna to connect to your phone. So you're going to have to go with either a larger in the ear device or a behind the ear device. And so this is all about trade-offs. If you want one thing, you might not be able to have another. So it really is important that you take that time with your hearing care professional and uncover all of these things that are most important to you and really identifying the perfect style of device for you. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos about hearing loss and hearing aid options, go ahead and subscribe to my channel where I have a bunch of other videos that you can watch. Take care, and I'll see you next time.